Welcome to my next Lost. Season 2 episode review video. Before I get into that though, pretty important, if you're not caught up to the point where I am at rewatching or watching Lost, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, you find that you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further to avoid any potential spoilers. My history with Lost, I've already watched this show 3 times. The last few times I've watched it, I've been binging it, and I want to let things resonate, so I want to rewatch it. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. Right now, it's currently ranked number 5, but it's a show that I'm going to like even more now that I'm watching it again and really letting things resonate. But I'm not the only one that's watching Lost. Hopefully you are, but the legendary Crazy Coffee Man, who you see in my comment section for various Dexter, Lucifer, and Breaking Bad videos, is actually watching Lost for the first time. So, please join us on the journey and let's discuss this awesome and amazing show. No spoilers, however, past this episode. So with all that said, this will be Lost, Season 2, Episode 14. The title of this episode is called One of Them. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. So we start off right away with our flashback character in an Iraqi bunker during the first Gulf War. As bombs fall around them, a Republican Guard commander urges his soldiers to keep destroying documents. The door is kicked in and American soldiers capture the Iraqi soldiers. Their NCO wants to know who is in charge, and one of the new prisoners speaks English, and it is Saeed. When Saeed says there is no commanding officer present, the soldier senses Saeed is lying and knocks him out with his rifle's butt. Saeed is taken aside by another soldier who is Kate's father. Well, technically it's not a real father, but the person that Kate identifies as their father. So characters in Lost randomly come across each other. For instance, Sawyer and Jack Shepherd's dad, Christian Shepherd, and now we have Saeed and Kate's father. So that's just a little interesting tidbit. And he asks for questioning and asks where the commander is. But Saeed, as a loyal member of the Republican Guard, tells the Americans that Tariq fled to Halea and long before they arrived, which is not true. The Americans lead him into a room where he finds Tariq tied to a chair in front of him. So they called him out in his lie. To the island, Ana Lucia comes to Saeed and tells him she saw one of them near the camp, and she and Saeed track the person, but Saeed recognizes the person as Russo. He tells Ana to go back to their camp and orders her not to tell anyone what she saw. Saeed jumps in front of Danielle Russo, asking what she is doing here. She says she is looking for him. And then we go back to our flashback. Saeed is used as a translator for the interrogation of his own commanding officer. The Americans are looking for a missing helicopter pilot, and they know Tariq can help them find him. Now, Tariq refuses to cooperate, ordering Saeed in Arabic to steal the guard's gun and shoot as many of the Americans as he can before they kill him. And Saeed doesn't do this, but tells the Americans simply that Tariq doesn't answer or doesn't have their answers. Sawyer, back on the island, is irritated by a loud chirping sound made by a tree frog, and Sawyer asks Jin if he hears it too, but Jin does not answer, angry after what happened previously to Sun. Sawyer heads off into the jungle and comes across Hurley binge eating from his secret stash of Dharma food. Sawyer says he will not tell anyone about the stash if he helps him find the frog during their trekking journey. Danielle Russo leads Saeed through the jungle to a clearing where there is a man hanging from a net in the tree calling for help. He claims to be Henry Gale from Minnesota, played by Michael Emerson. Danielle Russo warns Saeed not to free him and tells him he should not believe any words that Henry says. Saeed cuffs him down as Gale tries to escape, Russo shoots him in the back with a crossbow, purposely missing his heart. She is convinced that Gale is another and tells Saeed to take him back to their doctor. And Saeed ties him up, and she tells him that Gale will lie for a long time. He will lie. Back to our flashback, Sayid is introduced to Kirk Caldwell, who plays a serial killer on Dexter New Blood. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually Clancy Brown, who plays a character named Inman. He tells Sayid it is very important that they find the missing helicopter pilot, but he knows Tariq will never talk to him. He plays a DIA videotape which shows a village of people dying from a sarin gas attack that was ordered by Tariq. The man knows that Sayid had family in the village, and Sayid, feeling betrayed, agrees to interrogate Tariq. The American officer hands Sayid a large box. Probably Kirk Caldwell's kill tools. Sayid wakes Locke up back on the island and tells him Gale's story. Sayid tells Gale he has to calm down and asks him some questions. Gale claims to have crashed his balloon on the island, and his wife died after she got sick 3 weeks ago. According to Gale, they were staying in the cave off the beach, and then Jack Shephard arrives. Sawyer keeps calling Hurley in different nicknames. Each one of them has something to do with Hurley being overweight. Hurley's temper eventually heats up and tells Sawyer that even though he is fat, people still like him, while nobody likes Sawyer. Well, I think Kate likes Sawyer. Sawyer apologizes, and Hurley decides to continue the journey with him. Jack removes the arrow from Gale's shoulder. Sayid takes Locke aside and convinces him to change the combination on the armory door so that he can interrogate Gale without Jack's interference. How many times has Locke changed the combination now? Like 8 times already? They trick Jack into bringing Gale into the armory, and Sayid shuts the door as Jack and Locke walk out. While Jack is banging on the door, asking Sayid what he is doing, Sayid replies quietly, "What needs to be done?" Back in our flashback, Sayid begins to interrogate Tariq, who is skeptical that Sayid is working with the Americans. After a period of time in which Sayid interrogates and tortures Tariq, an exhausted Sayid walks out of the interrogation room and has the information from Tariq. The American pilot was executed 2 days ago and buried in a field 4 kilometers away. He hands the box to the American officer Inman. His hands are bloody. Jack and Locke argue about the combination on the door and Jack's plan to start an army. Locke says that Jack raised an army because they are at war, so whatever Sayid is doing with Gale is part of it too. Sayid questions Gale about his life on the island the last 4 months. He asks him about his wife, and Gale reveals she died when she suddenly got sick. He says it started as a fever in 2 days, and after 2 days she was delirious and dead. Or died. He asks to know who Sayid is, so Sayid tells him about his military career, about the things he did he wishes he could erase from his memory. He calmly introduces himself with, "My name is Sayid Jarrah, and I am a torturer." Yeah. Hurley and Sawyer find the frog. Hurley tries to reason with Sawyer, promising to take the frog to another part of the island, but Sawyer crushes the frog in his hand. Poor frog. Jack cleans up Gale's blood and argues more with Locke while Sayid continues his interrogation about the balloon and Gale's wife. Gale claims that he was rich after he sold his non-metallic minerals mining company. Sayid shouts questions about his wife's grave. How deep? How many shovelfuls of earth? How did you use your hands? How long did it take you? When Gale does not know what to answer, Sayid becomes violent and begins beating him severely. Sayid claims he would remember how deep that grave is if he would really have buried the woman that he loved. If it were really true, of course, he would remember. Gale asks if Sayid lost someone he loved on the island, and Sayid only says that it was an accident and tells him that the woman who accidentally killed her thought she was someone who wants to hurt us. Someone like you. Sayid punches Gale in the face over and over while Gale begs him to stop. Gale screams lead Jack to force Locke to open the armory door. Just as the timer begins to sound, Jack says if Locke would not open the door, he will not let Locke push the button. Locke does not believe Jack will risk everybody's life on the island, but Jack says he does not believe anything will happen if the button is not pushed. And Locke eventually opens the door and rushes to enter the code and push the button, but His finger trips over themselves and does not get them entered in time. Oh no. As the timer hits 0, hieroglyphics appear in place of the numbers, and what sounds like a generator begins to fire up. Locke finally enters the code and presses the button. The sound dies down, and the timer returns to 108. Meanwhile, Jack stops Sayid beating Gale. Gale thanks Jack, and before the armory door is closed on him, he shows some kind of smile to Sayid. Sayid is convinced that Gale is one of them, although his reasoning does not satisfy Jack. Sayid is in the back of a military transport with several soldiers, one of whom Kate's father, or person that she says is her father, Sergeant Austin, holds a picture of a young girl. Sayid is driven down a desert road in the Iraqi desert. Inman takes Sayid out of the transport, telling him that the Americans are pulling out of Iraq. He says he thinks Sayid is lucky now that he has gained a new skill that he can use. Sayid tells him he would never torture anyone again. Inman suddenly began speaking in Arabic, telling him that one day there will be something he will need to know, and now he knows how to get it. And Inman hands Sayid the box, gives him $1,000 to get back to Ramada, and leaves. Back on the island, Sayid is telling Charlie his story and claims that he knows Gale is an other because he felt no guilt for what he did. He tells Charlie that it seems everybody has forgotten what the others did to them, how they abducted Claire, or how they hung Charlie from a tree, and then he asks Charlie if he too has forgotten, and that's what ends this episode of Lost. So, pretty good episode. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Standout characters of the episode thus far: Sayid. Inman was pretty good. Russo had a minor role, I guess. No females really had a crazy, happenings in this episode. And then Jack was good as well, too, and John Locke. But I think Sayid, and I just like Inman, Kurt Caldwell. And this is not the last that we see of Inman. And then as far as this Henry Gale character, well, his name isn't really Henry Gale. I'm not going to say who he's with, but his name is Benjamin Linus. And he will be a character ongoing for the rest of the show, just to give you guys a heads up. So that's all I have to say about the episode. Now I want to hear what you have to say. So if you're a fan of Lost and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please don't forget to Hulk smash the like button, share this video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms like MySpace. I know everybody still uses MySpace. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section and interact with me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man. What would you score this episode? Whom would you choose as your standout characters? Obviously, it's a Sayid-focused episode, so Sayid is going to be the main character of the episode. And then let me know all your thoughts and anything else that you want to add. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You are watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.